There's not much in the way of huge news from last month in all honesty, but the crowd-funded Sinclair ZX Spectrum Vega Plus project has run into a bit of bother. Distribution of the handheld Spectrum, planned to happen very soon, has been put on hold due to an alleged dispute within the company behind the product. Despite this, new images of how the handheld will look in your hands, well, someone else's hands here, obviously, have been released. If any new developments occur regarding this story, I'll be sure to let you know. Other than that, it was slim pickings on the headlines front, with few retro Kickstarters launched, aside from one for an Amstrad CPC fanzine, with that being successfully funded. There was good news for those who are fans of Wolfenstein 3D however, with SplitWolf 1.0 being released. This version enables you to play the first-person shooter in a split-screen cooperative mode, and by all accounts seems to breathe some new life into this creaky classic. And to finish this section, someone modded their Game Boy so that it could fly a drone. Not much else to say, really. Let's start this segment with the Wii U, with its eShop getting a single retro release in the form of the much-loved N64 camera M-Up, Pokemon Snap. The 3DS's eShop didn't get much more, with just SNES titles Mega Man X2 and X3 being the only ports put onto the service last month. It was announced that there would be a physical cartridge release of the Sega 3D Classics collection for the handheld on November the 4th in Europe though, with the game grouping together 10 titles, including Altered Beast and Sonic the Hedgehog. There's not too much more to talk about on the PlayStation Network front either, with the PS4 receiving 2 new Arcade Archive releases through the service, Vulcan Venture and Kids Ho-Ho Daisakusen. It also got new and improved versions of 3 PS2 titles, namely Fahrenheit, The King of Fighters 2000 and Resident Evil 4. The latter is a remaster, and was also released on the Xbox One. Moving on, a trio of Mega Drive Disney titles arrived on Good Old Games, namely Aladdin, The Lion King and The Jungle Book. Finally, for new, old releases, the special edition of the Gianna Sisters was released on the Amiga. It's based around the 2009 title for the DS. To round off this section, a remake of School Days on mobiles and tablets is in the works, as is a remaster of the PlayStation title The Silver Case for Steam. Oh, and a new trailer for Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom was revealed at Gamescom last month too. Just a couple of pieces of news for this section, with the first being that a device called the Uper Grafx has been released for the PC Engine. It improves the visual and audio output of the console and costs 35,000 yen according to this website, which converted is roughly $350? Second is that pre-orders are now open for the AVS, which is effectively a high-definition NES. It will ship later this September. By far the busiest section this episode, there was a lot of retro homebrew released last month. All but a couple of the titles are free to download as well, with the only ones costing you any money 2 Commodore 64 titles. The first is Maze of the Mummy, which will set you back $2.99, and the second Apple II RPG Akalabeth, World of Doom. Only 50 discs for €5 each were put up for sale for the latter however, and they sold out within 3 hours. Some more might be created if there is sufficient demand though. Onto the free games, there was both Bubbo World and Trun for the MSX, Super Robin on the CD32, and Golden Tail and Heroes Rescue for the Amstrad CPC. To round it off, a trio of ZX Spectrum games, Sam Mallard, The Case of the Missing Swan, Angry Birds Opposition, and Manic Mower 24th Anniversary Edition. Moving on, the winners of the Dizzy Age competition, where several people have a crack at making a game based around the famous Egg Adventurer, were announced last month. The winner was Dizzy in the Dungeons, and you can check out all the other entrants, and there are quite a few, by following the link in this video's description. There was a lot of retro homebrew announced last month too, including a port of MS-DOS first-person shooter Shadow Warrior for the Amiga, as well as Spaceman Splorf, Planet of Doom on the Atari VCS. No release dates are set for either though. Next, a playtest version of Papi Commando Tennis 9 for the Mega Drive was also made available, with Go Sub also being announced to be coming to the Intellivision soon, a cart of the latter costing you $55 plus shipping. Finally, demos of Tanglewood on the Mega Drive and Furtum Sacrum for the Amiga arrived online. Quite a bit to talk about in this section this episode, with ROMs of unreleased Game Boy Advance titles The Phantom, Ghost Who Walks, and Mandrake the Magician, Shadow of the Vem being released online. They're both based on comic book characters, if you couldn't have guessed that already. Next, Infinity, an RPG which was slated to be launched on the Game Boy Color way back in 2001, has been revived by its developer, with a playable demo available to download. It's 90% finished as is, but it's not known whether it'll ever be completed. Third, and possibly most interesting of all, footage of several unreleased Famicom and PC Engine titles, including Popils and Marble Madness, were put online last month. Uploaded by Jun Amane, you can check out all the videos by following the link in the description below. On a similar note, 30 minutes of footage was also released of the canned Xbox Live remake of the N64's Goldeneye. Hopefully a playable build of this will sneak online eventually. And finally for this section, the unreleased prototype of Game Gear platformer Cave Dude was made available to download online. There are a lot of fan translations this month, so here's the complete list. No candy coating. Dana, Goddess's Birth on the Mega Drive, SNES titles Sailor Moon Super S Floating Panic and Hyper Iria, NES titles Bionic Commando, Jesus Tale of the Dreadful Biomonster, and Final Fantasy. Lunatic Dawn, Book of Futures and Lunatic Dawn Passage of the Book, both for the PC. BSX, the town whose name was stolen on the Super Nintendo add-on, the Satellaview. And finally, the return of the Mario Bros on the Famicom Disk System. That's all for this month then, but thanks so much for watching, and please do give this video a like if you enjoyed it.
Everybody followed some kind of queer religion.